hit, SK.
Why not us, Troy?
Today, live from the Pinecrest Inn, it's the Smylie Show. So long, everybody.
This is the Smylie Show.
Welcome back to the Smylie Show, where we are coming straight off a thriller at the Bay Club, the Bay Club, the Bay Hill Club and Lodge. Jumped the gun a little bit on the title of the club there, Smylie. I just am so excited about what we just saw, and really, it wasn't just watching that playoff and Akshay Bhatia winning, but it was just sitting down, flipping over to Golf Channel once the ABC coverage concluded, waiting about to the second segment, and watching you hit Friday bunker shots. That was the icing on the cake that I needed for this Sunday. But man, oh man, I just, for me, let's just kind of start big picture before we start unpacking the playoff and the specific players. But that is one of those standout, when you look back at a year of professional golf, that's one of those events that stands out in bold, of just the whole day had excitement, entertainment. The conditioning, as much as it may have bothered some of the players, just really produced a result that was just top tier. It was a fun Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I will say that Thursday and Friday at Bay Hill was as hard as I've ever seen it. And to see what Daniel Berger did, now Thursday morning, I think there was about a shot and a half disparity between it's not necessarily waves of tee times with only 80 guys playing, but what Daniel Berger did on Thursday and Friday, that's going to be some of the best 36-hole golf we see throughout this entire year. I mean, the golf course was insanely hard with the firmness of the greens, how fast it was, all of the wind and the crosswinds that they were dealing with. So, man, he brought it right from the get-go, and it's just so difficult to win wire to wire on the PGA Tour. It is. He had his hands on the trophy every single night, and all the way until the end, until all of a sudden they're announced that Akshay Bhatia is the winner.
On Friday, which, by the way, this is a little bit of a detour, but I think it's a necessary one, because as daylight savings, and as we've sprung forward and we're entering golf season.
Congrats, by the way.
Hey,
handshake.
Congrats to you. Congrats to all of us. And we had a high 70s day here in Durham, North Carolina on Friday and Saturday. So it was the return of Golf Fridays for Charlie Hulme, which was just glorious. So good to be out there in shorts, like working a little bit of a sweat up. But I headed into the Ross Grill after the round, right? Put the coverage on, trying to catch up what's happening. I'm looking at the TV. I'm like, do you guys have the right channel on? Is this a re-air? Like, Daniel Berger's 13 under at Bay Hill? Like, this cannot be right.
It's got to be 2006.
This can't be the correct tournament. But then you look at those greens, and they look like an Aspen ski slope. You're like, no, that's correct. That is, they're playing that tournament this week in Orlando, Florida. And so, actually, before we talk about that playoff, this is actually where I want to start. Is a little bit on Bay Hill. You sent me a picture on Saturday of those greens. I just laughed out loud. And I saw Scotty Scheffler on the 10th green on Saturday after a missed putt, turning to Ted Scott saying, it's not even putting on grass. We heard JT talk about it on Friday after missing the cut, saying there's zero chance they're going to be alive on Sunday. So we were in the group chat with Jackson, and I said to you, I need your power rankings for baked out /white /crispy Bermuda.
I've changed that, by the way. I've changed my list.
So I need top 3 on the PGA Tour, top 3 in the majors, and this is a work in progress on the creative, but I think we're calling these the Smylie Snap Crackle Pop power rankings, or the Snap Crackle Pop meter. We'll work on that.
Okay, so PGA Tour, I don't think much has changed with that list, but I've thought more about the major championship list, because I feel like you need 2 separate categories here for crispiest. So what defines it? So crispy means when you're walking onto the green and you're going to fix a divot and you put your putter down and it's sliding. Like, you can't get any friction on these greens. When you put your putter down, you can't keep it square. That is the element of crispiness we're talking about, like a crunchy potato chip. That's kind of where we're at here. What type of weather helps this, right? Typically drier weather, windy conditions typically or I would say play into more of a crispy type of green as well, and make it to where these guys are dealing with just ridiculous putts. So I'll start with Bay Hill on the PGA Tour. Okay. I think that's the easiest place to start. I mean, basically with Santa Claus's white beard on these greens, that's the color that they were looking at all week.
It's Christmas in March down there.
Yeah, as I kind of think about other really crispy greens, my mind takes me to Memorial can get that way. Now bent greens I think do not quite as good of a job of being like super crispy, but when we're talking about quickness and just guys being scared of putts, I think we're talking PGA Tour events, like when greens get past that 13, like that's Memorial.
That was gonna be my follow-up question, is like, is crispiness only Bermuda? But it sounds like it's not. Crispiness can be bent as well.
It can also be bent. I would have to go Memorial. Quail would be my next, but when they play that, it's overseeded, like wall to wall. It feels like it doesn't quite get that crispy, which is why I'm actually going to change that answer there from Quail, although it feels like that could be the correct answer, to when you get a dry Torrey Pines. So let's say
that's Poe. So you now giving us all three grasses. I like this.
My mind goes back to last year's Farmers Insurance Open. Do you remember the chaos that was happening in the greens that week?
Yes.
It was windy. It was Poana. It was dry. When you get the Santa Ana winds that come down through the valley. So that was the wind direction they were getting. It dried out the Poana greens. Not a ton of rain, obviously, leading up to it. And those greens were crispy. They were crispy. So I gave you all three there.
That's bonus points to you for giving us a Bermuda surface, a bent grass surface, and a Poana surface. So those are your tour rankings. Now, remind me your major championship venue rankings, because that's
changed too.
Okay,
it's changed. Right. I think it has to start and end with Chambers Bay.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do you remember the Billy
100%. Yes.
I mean, so you got bumpy Poe that is rolling. I mean, just the Dustin Johnson putt that comes to mind. How softly he hit that putt and how far it went, and it's just doing this.
Is that the crispiest? I'm trying to think, like, if I'm thinking of all-time crispiness, just in my collective memory, either that or the year that Phil Mickelson stopped a ball rolling off the green to Shinnecock.
You led me to my next one, Shinnecock.
Shinnecock Hills. Excellent submission.
And I haven't been on property there, so I'm gonna have to go see it for myself. But
to see it this year.
I think I just dislike fast bumpy Poe so much that's gonna be number one for me. But they've lost a green or two at Shinny over the years. You know, in the famous Zach Johnson quote of they've lost the place. So Shinny's gonna have to be up there, and then the last one's gonna be Augusta.
Wow, golly, we are amateur grass nerds, but we're grass nerds nonetheless on the show, and there's just something about talking about greens that are borderline, and then watching it play out this week that just really just makes you feel like golf season's here.
Augusta's bent. Augusta's bent, and and those typically when they get crispy, they get purple, like the color changes. And that happened to me on Sunday at Augusta. Unfortunately, I got out there that next day. Putter's not quite as crisp to the ground. Color of the grass changed. And I putted not very confidently. Actually, results show that too.
That's, if you want to go back and watch the film, you can watch it in full to the 2016 broadcast.
And we're going to send you over to the 2016 Masters. So see you back in a minute.
See you back here in a second. I like that. I think that was an excellent debut for the Smylie Snap Crackle Pop. Those are the power rankings. And then I think we'll come back to this throughout the year as a meter of like, where do we land this week on the meter? Like, what Bay Hill on a 0 to 10? Was this like an 8.5 this past week, this most recent playing the API?
Before the rain on Saturday, they were 9. It was 9-1.
I love it.
Yes,
9.1. All right, we have our first official ranking, 9.1 for the 2026.
A little less after the rain. Like from the rain on Saturday afternoon until Sunday, I would say they were more like an 8-1.
Great. Okay, we've established the first. This is so bad. I was going to say, speaking of anchoring, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I didn't say it.
If you wanted to talk about the Akshay anchoring stuff, you came to the wrong place.
Wrong podcast.
We don't know. Like, clearly he's not anchoring, but I'm sure that everybody thinks that he might.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the man of the hour. Akshay Bhatia has 5 shots back at the turn today, and then he makes 4 consecutive birdies with the aforementioned broomstick. He gets to 16. Joe Griner hands him a 6-iron, asks him to hit the best 6-iron of his life. He does just that. He said, he went in and his that's right. You were standing there ready to interview Daniel Berger. Cara Banks, that was what he said to Cara Banks on that green after winning. Joe asked him to hit the best 6-iron of his life. He almost holed it out for Albatross. He makes that eagle putt. He made 144 feet and 7 inches of putts on Sunday, and a stat from Justin
did almost
Justin
half
Ray,
of them on 11.
I mean, yeah, that 50-footer. He the most strokes gained short game, so around the green plus putting in a PGA Tour win in the ShotLink era. The second highest number was Patrick Reed at the 2020.
Wait, his was the highest?
Auctions was the highest. Gains 16.3 strokes this week. Patrick Reed had the previous high mark, gained 15 strokes in Mexico in 2020. So first the strokes gained putting, first the strokes gained around the green this week. And again, we just talked about it, on extremely challenging greens that created visible frustration for a lot of guys. And that saved him in a lot of ways because he did not have a good week off the tee. So
better on the weekend. Better on the weekend.
Better on the weekend, but missed a couple greens to start the day today. It looked a little shaky, and you're kind of wondering, hey, is Berg going to run away from this thing? Is Ludwig Oberg going to be involved? And then Akshay works his way back into it, plays great in the back, and obviously wins this tournament. We were texting again as we were kind of coming on the stretch, and I was a little bit of a prisoner of the moment there after that make on 13, trying to remember the last time I'd seen a putter this hot on a Sunday. Like, do you have any comparisons you can make off top of head of just watching a guy like that who needs to make a bunch of putts to get in the mix and does it over and over and over again, and also some crucial saves as well?
Gosh, I've watched a ton of golf, and I wish something just popped in my brain straight away. I'm sure I'll think of something later, but nothing straight away has come to my head. But it's incredible, man. He willed himself into contention with his short game, his putting. But I think, too, like when you look back at the beginning of the week and how difficult Thursday and Friday played, the fairways were firmer. The wind was definitely blowing. It was an issue Thursday and Friday. Guys were really struggling to hit the fairways because they had gotten so firm. And he hit 9 fairways of his first 28 attempts. So I went back and looked to see, like, all right, where was the issue? Like which way was he missing it? And at the end of the week, when I tallied up the difference between left and right, he had double the amount of right misses than he did left misses, and a majority in the first.
Cut the ball, right?
He missed 18 fairways to the right. He missed 9 to the left. So I mean, just crazy that he missed that many fairways. But he basically had 50% of his fairways on the week. And if you'd have told me at the beginning of the week that a guy that lost 3.5 strokes off the tee at Bay Hill won the golf tournament, I said, what in the world happened? Because this place has been well known for how well you have to hit it off the tee, hit fairways. It's the only chance you have. But it also makes it a fun spin too, in an argument that you could say that any type of player can win here. You see guys that absolutely just are bombers that have won here. Guys that are like Russell Henley that are short knockers that hit a bunch of fairways. Now you have a scenario where you have a guy who's ironed it well and then just unbelievable around the greens. And that was enough for Akshay to win. Now, I did mention that he did drive it better on the weekend. He hit 9 fairways both rounds, which I think is good, for a guy that plays golf. And if I hit 9 fairways, I'm pretty dang happy with that. So obviously figured something out on the weekend with the driver because it wasn't too big of an issue. But man, he willed his way into contention with that broomstick.
Yeah, it's funny that you phrase it in that way because that's often what we say heading to next week at Sawgrass. It's like there's no profile player that necessarily fits this place. We've seen certain runs of trends of guys that fit a profile win, but really anyone can show up at the Players and have a chance of winning the tournament because you can do so many different things well to win that tournament. And for this week, to your point, it did kind of fit a profile for a while, but I think the thing you take away is that it's not like it's necessarily an outlier as much as it's, are you going to let the state of those greens really kind of defeat you or bamboozle you or just wear you down, or are you going to kind of be up to that task? And Akshay, above and beyond, putted extremely well, and also to put himself in places to make those putts with the wedge game around the green. I mean, that alone is a Herculean task, like what he had to kind of overcome to surmount that sort of adversity, and he goes out and does it, and that's the only way he's going to win that golf tournament, with the stats, to your point, as bad as they were to start the week.
Yes, and the only other thing to mention about Bay Hill and the way the golf course played. So yes, there was rough, and it was up, but I've seen this place with much worse rough, where it's 5-inch rough, an absolute chip out anytime you miss the fairway. So it's been a colder winter, and they had some rain that came in over the last week to kind of help get it growing a little bit. But from what everybody had told me is that the blade just wasn't quite as thick this year, and you didn't quite get the height at times. And I think when you look back at this golf course and when players miss the rough, typically it's close to a half a shot penalty when you miss fairways out here. And this year, let's say if it was close to half shot, it was probably half of that this year. Guys were able to somehow keep the balls on the greens this year coming out of the rough with lies that were somewhat doable. And in the past, like, you're just like lucky to be able to get something close to the green. So I think that benefited Akshay this week clearly, because with the amount of fairways that he did miss and the fact that he didn't have a ton of chip outs, at least that I could tell, that he was able to advance everything up around the green and keep control of the golf ball. That was something that benefited Akshay.
Akshay has now won all three of PGA Tour wins he's notched have been in playoffs, which is a kind of insane stat just to get his career started on this tour. And I just was trying to think about this and sum up, where we are with his career. And I'm thinking back to when we had Luke Clanton on the show a few weeks ago, and we're talking about Akshay as an amateur. And there's a sort of general feeling of, hey, if he shows up, he's going to win this tournament. And I'm just thinking about, however we want to categorize this, clutch gene or aura or self-confidence, just this sort of assuredness that Akshay seems to have in these moments where you really need to be able to produce under pressure. Where does Akshay rank for you against his fellow pros already, even as a guy who's one of the younger ones on tour?
Akshay's won it at every single level. Now he skipped a level. He skipped the whole amateur level, the college level.
Or the
But,
college level, yeah.
you know, he was getting into the high level amateur events as a junior golfer and competing and playing well. Did he win the Jones Cup? Did Akshay win the Jones Cup?
Let me look that up while you.
I feel like, why do I think that he won that? While you look that up, I'll just incredible what type of player he's been for a young age and have the confidence to go and turn pro, and just kind of take your lumps early. It's been fun to kind of see his progression as a player. You know, when he came out as a young kid, you know, having an opportunity to meet him as a 17, 18-year-old to now a 24-year-old and a much seasoned player, and to see him kind of take his lumps. You learn a lot of lessons on the road, but I've always felt like he's handled himself like a pro. He's got a lot of belief in his game, and I think Akshay, he's a cool customer. That's the thing that always impresses me, is that he's not afraid to hit shots, has a ton of belief in himself, and I think he truly believes that he can be the number one player in the world one day. And I think that's the confidence that he showed today.
Akshay did win the Jones Cup, and I'm going to give you one guess as to how he won it.
Probably not with a broomstick.
In a playoff against Davis Thompson at Ocean Forest.
How about that recall? How about that recall?
Pretty incredible, because that's a home game for Davis Thompson. So that's a nice little win for him. Yeah,
dude,
so,
winning the Jones Cup at that age, like, this is that. For those of you who don't know what the Jones Cup is, it's an event played in February at Ocean Forest, which is a really difficult golf course that time of the year. Windy, tight, and for the most part, you got to just be an absolute ball striker. So Akshay's had that since he's a young kid. He's always had a great golf swing, good mechanics, and he just keeps him getting better every year. You know, every aspect of his game seems to improve. He's a great long iron player. I still believe for him to take the steps that he needs to, I still think that he needs to become a more accurate driver of the golf ball. I think at times he curves it so much with his irons. He gets so much feel, being able to shape it both ways. But with the driver, it feels like he's always in 3-wood. It's just kind of fighting the right formula of something that he can just hit on repeat. But man, you know what? I just thought about this too. We think about the shot he hit at 16, but we haven't even talked about the shot he hit at 6. Going for the green in 2, hits a hybrid out into the water. Like, he had a couple putts that he made early. Just the fact that he was able to keep himself in the golf tournament, man. Like, as soon as he 100%. Hit in the water at 6, I was like, oh, Akshay's out of this thing.
Dude, he could have doubled the first hole today. Like, I mean, there were a lot of putts where when you go watch the highlight reel, of course they're going to show you all the birdies he makes, because they have a 90-second time limit on the highlight reel. So, but for good reason, they're showing you those putts. But there were so many other
7-footer at 1, 7-footer at 1 and 2, 6-footer at 4, 12-footer at 5. I mean, those are crucial putts, man. And those are, like, when you look at the percentages, right? Like, those aren't.
There was, what was the stat? Like, there was a really good stat that they kept saying on the broadcast. They have, like,
the one at the end of the day, like how
it was like he made like
40%
of his 40% of some rate that, like, the rest of the field was converting at 14%.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, like, I it's bad. I'm forgetting the stat, but it just indicates, like, that is a chasm, between him and the rest of the field. And I thought too, if you look at the story of the day and you look at other guys like Ludwig Ober, I think was 3rd in strokes gained approach, 5th in strokes gained off the tee, looked fantastic, but there was so many putts, and he wasn't negative strokes gained putting, but there were so many putts where he just narrowly misses one he could make to be in the tournament. And all of a sudden, the story of his day, he's tied for 3rd, right? Or Cam Young, had lots of opportunities, narrowly missed, hit the ball great, but just misses out on a tournament that he could have been in the mix and or won. Whereas Akshay is making all of these putts and more to both keep himself in the tournament and then eventually tie and take the lead and win this thing in a playoff.
144 feet of putts is just insane to me. I'm looking at, like, so I'm going to count 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He made 7 putts from the 6 to 12 foot range. 7 putts from 6 to 12 feet on a Sunday. Like, that's insane. That is insane. All right, here's one more stat for you. On 16, 17, and 18, I'm sure you may have heard the stat. Throughout the week, like, if you add up the amount of total putts that he had from Thursday to Sunday, do you know the answer?
No.
13 total putts on 16, 17, and 18 accumulative throughout the week. The only time he had a 2-putt was on 17 today.
And that one burned that edge. We were both watching that. Like, he might have flipped it and made birdie, and then
that would have
Berger
been. Nobody would have. I can't imagine in history that anybody's ever done that anywhere. 16, 17, and 18 one putted every single day. Like, that is just stupid.
So I think, hugely positive for him, and a guy who I feel like we're going to be talking about when it comes to major season of being back in the mix. And maybe even for some teams this fall, the President's Cup, like, we'll see where he's at after a full year of play on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who looks really good right now.
Yes, his 9 under par 63 was his second best round of his career strokes gained. If you go look back at his first, it actually was the Saturday round at Shinnecock when he was in 60th place heading into the Saturday round. Shoots like a 68. And that was actually a round in which he gained like 8 or 9 strokes. And it's that Saturday was the day which they lost it.
But
so
hey, that's interesting.
We're heading to Shinny.
Heading to Shinnecock. Like, these are all like, put little pins in these things throughout the years. Like, this guy's really good when the conditions are borderline. So it's positive week for Daniel Berger.
I think too, like, people watch Boog and how good he hit his driver, but the trajectory that he hit it.
Yeah, that
like bullet cut. Like, when I think of bullet cut, I've always thought of Daniel Berger. Like, he does it better than anybody because he's able to still, when the ball hits in the fairway for him, it's going, man. And he's got the ball speed up on that same shot. Gosh, some places it's nice to be able to carry it long. But this week when the fairways were running, man, right. And there's a lot of good golf courses for that. Open Championships are great. Shinny's going to be good for it. And just the added ball speed that he's got on the ones he gets up in the air. Boog's, I'd love to see Boog, continue on, and play some good golf the rest of the year. Maybe it'll be hard for me to see him have a good week at Players next week, just mentally and physically. How exhausting this week must have been for him. But if he's able to dig deep, that's another good golf course that he could play well
A name of a guy who's not in contention this week, but it just feels like we're at the place where every week he tees it up, we have to talk about him in some way, shape, or form. And so we entered this week, Scotty Scheffler, on the back of 3 slow starts, right? He was asked about this in the press conference on Wednesday heading into the tournament, and his answer was very succinct and very to the point. Last year on tour, I led in first round, second round, third round, and fourth round scoring. So I'm not too concerned over a very small sample size. Then this week plays out, and he's amongst a group of guys that are a little bit frustrated with the state of these greens. His worst category statistically actually was approach, which is obviously uncharacteristic for Scotty Scheffler. And then leaving the course today, talked to the media and said he was encouraged by some of the iron play. He wanted to go out and see, iron it a little bit better, see some shots that he wanted to see. Obviously, there were certain holes, the par 3 where he hit in the tree and they couldn't find it. There's some kind of loose iron shots, but he was saying to the media he felt a little bit better heading into Players Week. Just trying to sum up what you saw from Scotty this week, and if it is just he's in a little bit of a dip in form right now, if there's something specific that's off, just trying to kind of figure out what we're seeing from Scotty and why it is the way it is right now.
It'd be easy for me to say that Scotty is having a dip of form, definitely needs to go and figure it out. And I think there is some level to that because I was a little discouraged by his iron play this week. And when I look back to it, Amex was, that was a dome, right? So we're going to go past that. But even the weeks that he got off to slow starts on Thursdays, it seemed to be his iron play at times, which honestly is so weird. I've seen him come up short and long, left and right sometimes. So just not quite as deadly, right? Where he's able to somehow be able to judge the wind perfectly, the conditions, the changing air that these guys deal with day to day, wet golf balls, all of this that Scotty just makes look easy sometimes. And like we've seen him play at such a high level that it's easy to now look at this week and be like, oh, well, he actually ironed it pretty terrible when you look at the statistics. And I think he did hit a lot of bad iron shots, but he put that new driver back in play. He said he liked it. He saw some things, but I think he's going to be working hard heading into the Players Championship, just trying to get his stuff a little bit tighter and a little bit more dialed in because, I must say that I wasn't like encouraged about like him showing up at the Players Championship and running out a 65 round one. He very well could, but it seems like he's going to have to kind of go get some work done, see it in the air, start hitting some higher quality iron shots. Not to say that he can't flip it around in a second, because he can. But I think it's worth mentioning that, it was kind of a tough weekend for him with the iron play.
3-pack of guys, Smylie, that I want to run through before we head to some. There's a lot of Ryder Cup news in the news this week. Some quotes, some captain news that we need to kind of get to and discuss. But before that, just to wrap up all the action at Bay Hill, you're with Cam Young today. That's one guy I want to talk about because he's now got a T7 at the Genesis Invitational and a T3 this week, the API. So game's trending. Ludwig Oberg, a guy who hit it great this week, maybe missed some putts coming down the stretch, was tinkering with the mallet early in the week, which is, I love that. And then Colin Morikawa, which, he is ball striking is always so good, but looks like he's finding some confidence on the green. So just want to get your thoughts on those 3 guys and their performances this week.
I like all 3 of these players, man, heading into major season and heading into next week. I think any one of these 3 players can win at the Players. I think they all are capable of winning a major. I love how Ludwig and Cam Young are driving the golf ball, especially Cam Young. My goodness, man. The exhibition I got to witness today off the tee was as point and shoot as I've ever witnessed.
Wow.
With the length and accuracy that he displayed. He was first strokes gain at 7.3. The next best was 4.5. So like 3 shots or 3 strokes gained better than the next
That'll
guy.
do it.
Now I will say that his wedge game really let him down today. He had 7 gap wedges or less today on Sunday from the fairway through the first 13 holes and hit 1 inside at 10 feet. Like he legitimately could have gotten himself right inside the mix, like heading into that big stretch. And 3-putt at 16, and he lost by 3 strokes. And I could have found so many opportunities for him today to where he could have been in that playoff and even won the tournament outright.
Do you think I remember when he was on the show and he was talking about the golf ball change and how it kind of made yards different or more simple for him maybe. A week like this where the green firmness is, you get the rain, it's super crispy. Like, do you think that's a variable that makes it hard for a player like Cam Young?
On the weekend, I think it made it a little more challenging for the guys. The wind was down today, so I think a little bit less excuses not making the adjustment, but I think the fairways were a little bit softer. Like, he was taking Mongo dibs, man, like catfish divots. Like, I was going to get these things, and I'm like, man, he's getting, like, he was smashing his wedges. And
make a little belt of all of his pelts.
He just, like, they look good in the air, but for the most part, like, they were either just a little bit left, just a little bit right, or just a little bit short or wrong, and just never quite had it, like, perfect, for a day where the wind didn't blow quite as hard. I thought he missed some opportunities and very well could have put himself right there. But Ludwig, I think he'll look back on Saturday's round. I think I texted you guys that Ludwig's going to win the Masters, and then proceeded to go miss 2.5 footer at 3 for birdie, miss 5 footer for birdie at 4, and then miss a 5 footer or 6 footer for par at 5, and then missed another 5 footer for par at 6. And I was like, well, that kind of backfired quick, a little bit of a jinx. So apologies for that, Ludwig, but
Is it mallet time?
No, I like the way he's putting it. It just, sometimes you can just get so defensive out there when you just get a little spooked on some putts, and he just hit some, I think when you leave this week, like you can hit plenty of good putts that feel like, oh man, just can't believe that didn't go in. But I think the rain helped a ton because there was zero friction. Like, you put your club down, wouldn't stay. But I think the rain kind of stood the grass up a little bit more, made there be a little bit more friction where the golf balls would hold their line a little bit more on the putting green. So unfortunately for Ludwig, the stretch of holes I'm talking about was just right before the rain delay. The wind was kind of blowing in, and it was tough to putt. And he unfortunately had 4 putts in a row inside of 8 feet that he missed, and he lost the tournament by 3 shots. So, like, you just kind of look at a tournament sometimes, you're like, he did a lot of great things, and there's just sometimes a 30-minute stretch that can lose you the golf tournament. Unfortunately for Ludwig, it feels like he played plenty good enough across the board. Like, iron game was awesome. Like, I was so encouraged by what I saw with his iron game. He putted well at times, like drove it so well, was so accurate. times, like drove it so well. It was so accurate. But then just last one, Morikawa, iron game. I mean, there's nothing else to say about Colin, right? Like he's confident, he's playing well, putted well this week, and unfortunate 3-putt for you that I think we need to talk about this whole one and done Rory situation.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Is Jax on here? Does he have his cloak on?
Well, yeah, Jax is how much of this do we want to talk about, Jax? You tell us. Jax is on not a vacation is the wrong word, but we're all entitled to kind of some time away. So Jax is down in Florida, somewhere in Florida. So here is Jackson Brown joining us live on the show from Florida, not wearing a powdered wig, highly unfortunate. Jackson, here's where I'm going to start, and this is I like to be applauded for this. This is very big of me, very good of me. Is that last year when Ludwig Oberg, when I made him my pick at the AT&T, and he withdrew with sickness 1 round in, I was allowed to reuse Ludwig later in the year. Now I got no points for that week. So I think that's the legal precedent that we're entering this with for Smiley's Rory McIlroy choice. He gets another use of Rory McIlroy. Although I would also like to enter a few additional pieces of evidence to the court, which is to say that I think Smiley used Sam Burns like 5 times last year, and maybe another player twice.
I will point to our accountant, our clerical side of this.
That's an entirely different case. You got to try that in a different court.
Well, all right, Judge Brown.
Yes.
First off, happy to be here. You look great, and
thanks.
The honorable,
as you can tell, the golf trip went really well.
Well,
the judge can't really speak too well right now, but appreciate it.
Well, first off, Judge, do you take bribes? I'm going to start there.
Oof. We don't call them that in our industry.
Okay.
Judicial incentives.
Judicial incentives. Okay. Well, we might have to get there if you don't like what you hear here. So Rory McIlroy was 4 under par, playing very good golf heading to the weekend at a golf course that he's won multiple events at. I think Rory McIlroy could have easily won this golf tournament, and I think I feel so confidently about it. I was walking down the 5th fairway today thinking Rory is 3 under par through 5 holes. Like, it popped in my head. So that clearly is an indication that this was going to happen. And somehow there was a glitch in the system to where Dadback struck again. And I just hope that as a future father, and you're looking at 2 fathers yourself, that you can relate to this and the epidemic of Dadback, and that you can also sympathize with somebody who uses Rory McIlroy at a place in which you feel like it's the right place to use it. And the last thing I'll say with one and done is that sure, you could let me use Rory McIlroy later in the year, but it doesn't take away from what Rory McIlroy was going to accomplish this week. And all I ask is that you let me use any one of my backups this week.
No.
That's all I ask.
Objection.
What? On what grounds?
Oh,
on the grounds of Charlie.
What power does this court have to theoretically project one and done totals? This is a truly audacious request. There is a legal precedent, Your Honor. Let me just say,
I object.
Order.
Like
Order.
Everything that Smiley said, I'd like to say that and more. Just how great you look and how great it is to be here, and your honorable presence. May I also say, Your Honor, that there is a precedent here, and the court, if the court cannot adhere to precedent, there is no law. We live in a lawless world. All I'm asking for you to do is
this guy again, man.
Uphold
He sounds like a
legal
lawyer.
precedent.
The judge is losing. He's like, this guy sucks.
You're losing me, CH. Oh, listen. I find myself as a pretty compassionate person. Smiley, I feel for you here. I had Rory top 10 this week.
Ooh.
I feel you.
Gambling judge. That's a little pressure point. There's a bribe in there somewhere.
Hey, before you make your ruling, I want to make one more case. Are you about to make your ruling? Because if you are, can I make one more case?
Let's hear it.
Okay, so Judge, every single week we give 4 players in order
Oh no! See, I
order.
knew he was gonna try to loophole
In
this.
order. Like
No.
I say I like this guy. I like this guy. I was going to take this guy, and honestly, if in a withdrawal situation, I always have that last player as the potential drop back candidate. And I also am okay with using that player if they get dad back. So from my opinion, the last two guys I say could be a player that could be burned and one and done. That's where I'll leave it.
I'd like to also.
I'm glad you added that point, Smylie. That was an important little additive there, Charlie.
I'd like to also add on that if Smylie gets to use a backup player, I'd like to include one of my extra choices, get also his points in addition to Colin Morikawa's points, because that's really we're on a slippery slope here. I mean, there's a precedent. Judge, I'll defer to your ruling here, but I think that's clearly the ask is. It's really disrespectful to your court. It's disrespectful to your court.
That's right. That's right. I don't.
Yeah,
that they're disrespect. However, I do kind of like where you're going with the backup situation here. But I fear I've already made my decision. And unfortunately, the compassion I do obtain is not there's no place for compassion in the one and done rule book. I googled, I went through some Reddit threads. I even asked AI. There's no compassion in the one and done rule book, and it's unfortunate. Like I said, I was with you this weekend. I feel your pain, but I think I'm gonna have to award Charlie Hulme with the winning argument here.
Well, I think that's a crock of shit. I think we're just...
Listen. I could have easily went, with a partial employer here and really sucked up and kissed some, but I think when we're talking about golf etiquette and we're talking about just the game of golf as a whole, like I said, there's no place for for wiggle room in something like this. So sorry.
Rule bending.
Do you have a gavel?
Yeah.
I don't even know what they say, but that's the gavel.
A broomstick.
Here.
He's using an anchor broomstick. Donald had these comments. He was asked about the whole Rahm thing. Now that he's officially the captain, he said, John, like Rory and like Shane, like all the guys who have been able to captain, was a great player, great teammate in Rome, New York. Obviously, love for him to be available. A little bit of that is on his shoulders, and he has to do what he thinks is right. But obviously, I look forward to having a chat with him and hopefully get him to be available for that Ryder Cup. So we'll see what sort of sway Luke Donald has in that conversation. As you mentioned, Jon Rahm wins his first individual event since 2024 at LIV Chicago in Hong Kong this week. Won the individual championship last year on LIV without winning an event, which that was maybe the third most significant news story he was involved in this week, because he also got 8 LIV golfers out of Dubai on a private jet he paid for to escape a sort of a war-torn situation that involving a retaliatory tax from Iran. Just a whole mess there where, you know, he did a really good thing, a really humanitarian thing for his fellow competitors to get him out of there. So wild week for Jon Rahm.
I know. I need to call John the next time I'm stuck after missing a flight in Atlanta.
A little bit of a different scenario. A little bit of a different scenario there. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously, it's a, you know, a tragedy what's happening in the Middle East there, and you obviously you like, but I thought it was pretty cool what he said, where he's like, the way I see it is simply, it's my duty. I was raised with certain values. You have the ability and the capability of helping somebody, especially in a scenario like that, where my main focus was essentially getting them out of there, not necessarily playing a tournament. Like I think, you know, it is interesting. It's like we're talking about the money he received from LIV and, you know, what that enables you to do, and you have to attach that to, well, if you're not willing to pay the DP World Tour fines and at your hard line there, at least you're using it to kind of help guys out in moments of need. So not all bad for Jon Rahm this week.
Yeah. Very, very nice. Man, he's been playing great. Like I was impressed with him when I got to watch him last year at the majors. He was hitting it so far. I mean, he's been a top 3 or 4 talent in the game for a decade, pretty much. So anything with his golf doesn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. And whether he wins a major or not this year doesn't change my opinion of how good this guy is at golf. But with all that being said, he is another guy that has won at Augusta before. The pressure of not winning at Augusta isn't on his back to get a green jacket. He's another player we just got to keep monitoring. We're gonna keep our eyes peeled.
Yeah, well, I mean, and he said after this win, you know, it felt like relief. You know, this guy's gone on, you know, a number of years now without winning a tournament. So I think that this is a guy that feels freed up. Yeah, and is going to be dangerous come major season. So
speaking of relief, I don't have it right now because I keep refreshing my Uber Eats app, and this Domino's has been being prepared for 20 minutes now. Is this starting to become a concern when we talk about a Sunday night 9:30 pizza that's being prepared for a while? Like, is this a call that I'm gonna have to make to the store to see, like, hey, what's the status?
It's definitely a store call, and we can wrap up here after we kind of sort this out together as a show live. But what I'd say is this is about the time where I start lining up my backup Uber Eats order, which, like, anyone who's been in the spot, they know, you know, you have what you're gonna order, but you also have if this goes bad, a lot of places close at 10. Like, you might want to preemptively get in a backup order right now. So that's where Smylie Kaufman's at right now.
Have you ever been so hungry that you've gone on Uber Eats and just kind of like created an order and just not even ordered it?
I mean, frequently. Frequently. I'm trying to do less of that. I think that's where I'm at.
It's like, man, like if I was feeling like if I was going to grunge out and just like get on old school, you know, get a couple liter Dr. Pepper, get a nice flick on, like what would I order?
It's usually the pizza place, because you're like, you really only need the pizza, but it's like you put the 2 liter in your cart, you put like an appetizer in your cart, and you put the dessert in your cart. Yeah, you got like a skillet brownie and like some breadsticks, and it's like, this is entirely too much food. But
it's honestly like you can if you can text the Uber Eats guy and be like, hey, the movie theater's right next to my house. You don't mind swinging by and getting a popcorn and a little milk duds. Yeah. Swing by there on your way.
Throw them a bone. A little double dash. We've done enough content for tonight, and we need to get Smylie Kaufman fed.
I gotta call him.
You gotta call him. I will see you tomorrow on Avidra. Ponte Vedra Beach, because we're going to do a players preview show that will be out on this channel on Wednesday this week. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to a fun week down there at the Players. And that's all I got, Smylie. Unless you want to call Domino's live on the show, I think we're wrapping this thing up.
You want me to call?
Should we call Domino's on the show? Yeah.
Okay,
Let's do it. We don't know whether or not we're going to include this call, but we're gonna try.
Welcome to Domino's.
Ah.
Just pizza.
We'll see you next week on the Golf Channel. This has been The Smylie Show.